What is happening, guys and gals? Joe Badger here, your money mentor, where we have deep pockets and short arms, and where I help you with my nearly 40 years of experience with investing and business. Well, today it's all about the losses. It's about the stocks that went south, the money that I lost, the terrible trades, the terrible investments, so I thought. If you're going to be in the stock market, no matter how long, you can expect to lose some money. Hopefully, the losses are a lot less than your gains. As a matter of fact, I've been investing for nearly 40 years, and I've had some doozies. Thank God that most of the investments were good ones, and they far outweighed the losers. And that's the attitude you have to take. You can't get emotional. But we're going to explore this in much more detail. We're going to go over the different losses that I had and find out what lessons that I've learned and that you could avoid in the future. So make sure that you subscribe because we have a lot more coming and you do not want to miss out. But today it's all about the losses. It's about losing money, the stocks that went south. One of the big losses when it comes to investing in stocks that I have suffered involves a stock called Patriot Coal. This was 10 years ago, I'm guessing. I had just come off of a big win. My girlfriend at the time, she had invested in a small stock, and I watched that stock double in 1 or 2 days. It wasn't a solid company, but it was a volatile stock. And, well, I was feeling gutsy. After all, I couldn't have her experience all the wins and laugh at me. So I got into the stock too. Now, you're going to think this is where the big loss comes from. No, not at all. I was only in this one stock for about a week, and I more than doubled my money, maybe tripled. I just had a really good win. I think the most I invested at that time in that one stock was about $5,000. And it was a good thing I did because it was a volatile stock. It probably could have went down. It was more of a gamble than it was a trade or an investment. But I kind of got lucky and I made some quick money. So here I was feeling confident. I was feeling like I was really knowing what I was doing. I just came off this big win. I remember going into the gym and talking to my buddies there, and we always talk about investments. And I remember my one friend, he was talking about Patriot Coal. And without even thinking very much about it, I was like, well, my buddy's thinking about it, so it must be good. And so without doing any kind of research, just kind of taking his word on this, I ended up investing $15,000 in Patriot Coal. Well, this was at a time when the government wasn't very friendly to the coal industry, and this entire stock went bankrupt. I didn't just lose money, I lost it all. I didn't get to, out of the $15,000, I didn't get to take back 5 or 10 or 1 or $100 or even $1. I got zero, a big goose egg. Needless to say, my buddy, he was really apologetic as if he made me lose that money. And I was like, listen, that was my choice. I take all the responsibilities. But what did I learn there? The biggest lesson was, no, not listen to your friends, but do your homework. It's a vital part. I mean, I don't even think I looked up its chart before I invested in it. I was just feeling cocky, not even confident, just cocky after having made some money. And I was like, okay, now what do I invest in? So I picked this stock simply because my buddy was talking about it. I knew that he was very successful with stocks. So I just assumed this was going to be a winner for me. I really didn't monitor it for long, but in no time, it kept going down and I didn't bail. In the end, the stock went bankrupt. I lost it all. And that still stings me to this day. Another quick one that I want to talk about is GM. Yes, GM went bankrupt on me, And this wasn't in 2008 during the federal government bailout. This is much earlier. I had a small position in GM, probably only about $3,000. And I remember them going bankrupt and I lost it all. I even remember a friend of mine who was working at GM then, who had shares in GM as an employee, and all the employees lost their shares in stocks. That's how it goes. The company files for bankruptcy and everybody loses out. Well, kind of just washed my hands, went on, and many years later, in 2008, when GM was having problem, all the car makers were having problems, the government bailed them out. And so GM filed for bankruptcy again. And luckily for me personally, I didn't have the stock, once bitten, twice shy. But here's a case where a major corporation went bankrupt more than once. And everybody who had GM stocks, of course, just lost their shares. You get zero, you get nothing when they go bankrupt. So what is the lesson here? That any company at any time could feasibly go bankrupt. You can lose all your shares in that company, and then that company just continues on, moves on, and like it was nothing. Another stock that I took a big loss on was a company called Healies. They were an unusual shoe. They were kids' shoes with little wheels built into them, not like skates, but inside the sole. And kids could skate around. It was a really fun kind of invention, but it was a terrible stock. And just like Patriot Coal, I wasn't careful with who I was listening to. And I wasn't doing my research. Two big flaws. This time, I was tuning into CNBC, and one of their investors or anchors or personalities was talking all about Healies and how this was the coming thing, and what a great invention, and you can get in on the bottom floor, right? What a dream. Well, it sounds good until everything goes wrong. Once again, this is a stock that went bankrupt on me. And those are the worst. You don't just get like 50% back, you get nothing. And once again, I didn't do my research. I didn't look it up. I went by my gut on this. This was a long time ago. And I would say the total investment that I put into this stock at the time was probably about $5,000. Not only did I just listen to some guy on TV, which is a huge mistake if that's all you're doing, no matter who they are or who they pretend to be or who they say they are. Remember, the guys on TV, the people on TV, there's nothing that holds them accountable. If they get it wrong, we're the ones that take the loss, not them. In fact, they have to fill runtime 24/7. So it's going to get pretty boring if they just keep talking about the same stocks over and over, the same good stocks. They have to dream up new material. So this one guy talks about Healies. I look it up briefly, I invest in it. Eventually it goes to zero. So a couple of things that I did do here. I didn't really monitor the stock and watch it. Or when I watched it and it was going down, I didn't detach myself from the emotions. I let my ego get in my way thinking that, oh, it'll recover. And that is what a lot of stocks do. And you have to figure out, it is very tricky figuring out when to sell that stock. But in this case, I didn't sell it at all. I took a complete loss. I listened to a guy on TV, and I didn't research enough. Again, on this channel, I always encourage critical thinking and investing for yourself. But every once in a while, I'll even talk to a so-called professional stockbroker or financial advisor just to see what they're thinking, just to see if they know something that I don't know. So many years ago, I was talking with a guy, and I gave him a small chunk of money to invest just to see where he would go with it and what he would do, and see if he could make me some money. Well, he picked in the very first stock that he picked for me was called Key Energy. It was an oil stock, a relatively small company, and I said, great, let's see what happens. Good thing is, he didn't put a lot of money into it, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 at the time. So here we go, professional stockbroker with all the resources behind them, a big company with analysts on their staff, and all the resources you can hope they would need. And guess what? The stock went bankrupt. Once again, a terrible, terrible stock where I just lost all of the money. And I remember this guy talking about putting stops into your positions. So if the stock goes below and it hits a certain point, that it's going to stop there and sell off automatically so you do not lose all of the stock. Well, genius, what happened with that one? Turns out he lost the entire stock for me. Well, needless to say, I did not invest with him for long. I pulled my money out and I went back to working for myself, investing for myself. But what's the lesson to learn here? And I'm going to go into this deeper with an entire video, but stockbrokers, professional financial advisors, what do they really know? Are they really any better? They should. When they do it for a living, they should know a lot more, especially when they're with a big reputable company and they supposedly had a lot of resources behind them, right? Don't forget to comment if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Also, please subscribe to the channel. The stocks that I talked about today all had to do with bankruptcies, probably because they're the worst type of loss. As a matter of fact, if you are going to be investing in the stock market for any amount of time, expect to experience some sort of loss. But at least today, I hope you learned something from my mistakes, my losses, to avoid those in the future. Keep in mind, the best time to invest is now, and take advantage of a long time frame and compound interest.